Hi, everybody, and welcome to Cope with Hope. Today, I have my wonderful friend, Calder Marchman. So, thank you so much, Heather. I'd like you to introduce yourself to our audience and then tell them a little bit about how you've spent the last 40 days since, well, are you on lockdown?
Yes, we're actually on a very restrictive, they call it a SIP, which means shelter in place. So that actually means we're really only supposed to go out of our homes. I mean, we can go for walks and things,
Yes.
but we're only allowed to go to the store like maybe once a week and just do a few essential things. So it's very, very strict. So I don't know if that's the same in your country, but it's quite restrictive here.
Well, it's the same over here in Bombay, Mumbai, where I live. It's very
Okay,
restricted.
yeah, that makes sense. Yes. So I am actually a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I have been in this field for 35 years, and it's been the most amazing experience. And I have a private practice, and I work with about 20 to 25 people a week. And personally, I'm married. I'm on my second marriage, and I have a blended family, and we have 4 adult children. And the youngest one is 26. I was trying to think last night, how old is everybody? So I can tell you this. And the oldest one is she's 31. So we are empty nesters, and we live here on a small ranch outside of San Francisco. We're about 40 minutes from San Francisco in a small town called Danville. And we have on our little ranch, we have 2 horses, a dog, and 2 cats. Wow. So we have been in isolation with our 5 animals.
So what is your day like? What is your day like these days? What do you do
these days?
Yes.
Well, I feel incredibly fortunate because you can't see. I'm actually sitting. You're gonna laugh. I'm actually sitting in my closet right now so that it'll be quiet because my husband's working right now, and we live in an open concept house. So I'm sitting in my closet so you can't see our outdoors. Yeah. But we live in a neighborhood that is full of nature, the beautiful mountains, and we have lots of vegetation. So I live on 2 acres and have the horses here. And as you know, I'm a avid equestrian, and so I have my own riding facility here. So personally, it's really the lockdown for me, and I'm so lucky. It's not a big deal because I'm just home with my animals and family. So on that level, it hasn't at all been a struggle. And we're very fortunate because both of us are still able to work. I have been seeing all of my clients virtually like this, and they've all been very good sports about it. And it's so much fun doing this because if you saw that Zoom video of how all the different ways people are on Zoom. Yes. And so it's so funny because my teenagers, they just carry me around like wherever they're going, if they're eating their breakfast or whatever they're doing. So my teen clients have me and sometimes I'm looking up at the ceiling. I don't know. It's like I'm a thing. And then some of my adult, I had a couple the other day that had a little spat and they walked out of the room, and the 4-year-old came over to the monitor and looked at me. And then sometimes I'll be talking and the dogs on somebody's will come flying in and jump into so that has actually been really helpful. And I was thinking, actually, from my perspective as a clinician, I've really been able to get a better sense of my people, just being able to have a little, I've been able to kind of see them in their own homes. Yes. So again, like back to your question, I've been very fortunate that I can do my work from my husband does the same. He's a manufacturer. He's in the semiconductor business, Silicon Valley. And so he's been able to do most of his work from home. So that's where we're at. But again, as we know, there's a lot of people struggling And I think this is
Yes.
kind of what we're trying to talk about is how do you cope? Well, I love your title, Cope with Hope is a
Yes.
great title,
Yes.
by the way.
Yes.
So.
So yeah, so you were saying that a lot of people are struggling, and I know you're a specialist in this. So can you just tell us, if you're struggling at this time emotionally, what is the best thing you can do?
Okay, it's a very good question. Let me just preface this. I was thinking about this. My work is actually about having hope. To sit in my seat with people day in, day out, actually all the time,
Yes.
is everyone comes to me. They don't come to me happy.
No.
They come to me because they are in crisis.
Yes.
So I have to sit and not be blind with hope, but
Yes.
carry hope for them.
Yes.
So as far as trying to get through this, obviously everybody's on edge. You can't help but everyone's telling me that it's an emotional roller coaster right now.
Yes.
And I think it's so important for people to be able to just validate those emotions and know that this is a crisis right now. We're doing the best we can. I've noticed certainly on social media, people are edgy, and that's normal. And I would tell you that most of us are in survivor mode. And most of us aren't normally, all of us have had crises, but this is a prolonged one.
Yes.
And so what's so important is, and I think some of the people that you've been interviewing been touching on this, because I did look at some of the interviews, of ways to ground yourself, and connectivity is the important one. And I don't know if you want me to talk about the little bit of the work that I do, because I am a trauma specialist, and I can get into that if you want.
No, I do want you to. First, I want to ask to explain a little more about the survivor mode, connectivity, and then trauma for lay people.
Okay. Yes, I will. I'll try. You help me if you think I'm not making sense. So I do work primarily with people that have post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that we have that from the COVID, but we're definitely have acute stress right now. And maybe some people do have, PTSD, and it's been activated or triggered by this event. So survivor mode, what I mean by that is, and I'll give you a very simple, and I think it actually is kind of a fun explanation about the neuroscience and how our brains operate. So the old part of our brain is the limbic system, which is the spinal column, and then in this part. And so think of that as your lizard brain. And that's when we're in survivor mode, that's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. So think of the lizard. And the way you deal with the lizard is just think pet the lizard. And my clients understand this when they're getting activated and they're in flight, fight. I'll say, okay, we need to pet your lizard brain right now. So that's the lizard brain. And then the middle part of our brain, so as our brain evolved or developed, the middle part of the brain is the amygdala. It's the emotions. It's where we get our needs met. A lot of addicts actually kind of live in that part of the brain.
Yes.
When you're in an argument maybe in an argument with a significant other, and you think you're right. I always say, if you think you're right, then you're not being relational. You're probably in your middle part of your brain, and you're just thinking about your own needs. We all go there. It's an ego
we all
state.
go there.
Yes. So that's the middle part of the brain. And then, so so we got to kind of figure out which part. And then the third part of the brain is the neocortex, the cortex, and that's the most modern part of the brain, and that's our consciousness. And that's where let me just go back. The middle part of the brain, think of it as the mouse. Feed the mouse, pet the lizard, feed the mouse. And then the front part of the brain is hug the monkey, and that's connectivity. That's our monkey brain. And that's about our thinking brain. So in this situation, you will notice that we're kind of moving through, and it's normal anyway. And so the idea of hope is to if you're going to have hope, you obviously need to be more in your modern brain. I was thinking about, where is hope? It's there. It can be a feeling state, so you could kind of be in the middle part too. So survival, what I mean by that is you're seeing a lot of people that are maybe seeming more selfish, maybe they're much more emotional, maybe a little more explosive, then you know they're kind of having a hard time and they're down here.
Yeah.
So then you go, so that gives you a sense. Was that helpful or
Very helpful.
confusing?
No, that's very,
Okay.
very helpful. Pet the
Okay.
lizard, feed the mouse, and what to do with the monkey?
Hug the monkey.
Hug the monkey. Pet the lizard, feed the mouse, and hug the monkey. Love.
Yeah, there's your neuroscience right there. And that is about connectivity. And so what I love is everyone, and I noticed some of your guests talked about their most important tool or how they're coping is about their family and friends, and like what we're doing today. I mean, obviously with COVID, we can't go, we're supposed to have social distancing, but it's about connectivity. And that's a really important tool. And I really, really emphasize that.
Yes.
And they all know this neuroscience. So
yeah. That's
so hopefully that gives you a little explanation about how to interpret where we're at emotionally.
Yes, it does, because it helps you. I mean, you know that that you want to be grateful. You want to stay happy. You want to acknowledge everything that you do have, because many of us are very privileged. Having said that, we're also stuck at home, and we may have big homes. You may have space to move around, but you're still at home all the time. Okay, and you're also with your loved ones, but sometimes you're a pain for your loved ones, and vice versa. The person you may love the most may irritate you a lot that particular day, or you may get on their nerves a lot for something you're saying or doing. And human relationships are like that. We can't deny that.
Right.
So so what would you advocate to families who are I mean, we all have to live together at this time.
Yeah, right.
And you're not used to being together 24/7.
I know.
What is the best thing to do
for a family? So it's interesting that you asked that, because this is so adorable. I am doing family therapy on Zoom with a bunch of families. And it looks like, the Brady Bunch, and they'll walk in and they'll walk out, and they do. But they love it. It's so interesting. And what I'm doing with them is we do a lot of talking about space. And like even today, I'm talking about how I'm I have obviously a really nice big closet, but how important it is to figure out space. And so a lot of my families are trying to just figure out, even no matter what their size of their house, to say, oh, this is Johnny's space over here. This is where he studies. And so that's important. Another thing that I recommend is that it's so important, because hopefully people will understand from my little neuroscience education, is that try to figure out where you are in the brain. And if you don't even know, just figure out where your family member is. And it's a little bit of, don't take it personally because I'm in a bad mood. And so I really get everyone to own their feelings, and actually a lot of them are learning to work on taking a timeout, and that's huge. One of my families that I'm working with is hilarious, because timeout, they're just adorable, this family, but they tend to start yelling a lot. And yelling is not the worst thing, but they get very excited. I would say passionate, but it was so cute, because I do sometimes in the session say, okay, guys, time out. And they all will stop. It really helps them. So take a time out, and it may be, 5 or 10 minutes. Well, what's so cute is their youngest member is, I think and the other day, apparently they were all going kind of crazy. And she just said, time out, everyone. And she put the egg timer on, and everybody went, oh, okay. So that sort of thing. And that's like taking a pause, and then everybody can just take a moment. So
I like that. Time out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, these are very, very interesting tools that we can use at this time. And not just at this time, always. Yeah,
I'm sorry, what's
always.
that? I just missed what you
I said these are very interesting tools we can use at any time.
said. I'm losing you. I don't know
Okay,
why.
one
Let's try
second.
this.
Uh, just 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Heather, I was saying that these are very interesting tools that we can use, not just at this time, but at all times. That's
Yes,
the
I
thing
think
with
so.
hope. I mean, you need that at all times. And I
I
think that
think so.
right now, all this just has got magnified. You know, like we can actually look at our lives and see how we want to go forward as human beings.
Mm,
You know, each one
right.
of us, what we want to offer and what we want to share and give to the world.
Right. Right. Yes, I mean, I think what it's interesting that you know, and of course we're not trying. Obviously, you're not trying to say. I mean, it's kind of like what is the, it's always this thing about it. What's the takeaway
Yeah,
from this event? And what I love with, I mean, I don't love, but all my people that come to me in crisis,
yes,
when we get to stages of our work, we do kind of look like we're still in the midst of this crisis, the
yes,
COVID, but is reframe and starting to think, what is the takeaway? You know, what have we learned from this? And to your point, I think with like, just to use my families as an example, they are definitely realizing that they need to spend, and this is, you're hearing this a lot more time, quality time together.
yes,
Obviously, they need to have space, but here, and I think this is probably in your country too,
yes,
our families are mobile and they're overscheduled. The kids have so many events and things in regular normal times.
yes,
Well, because of the shutdown, they don't, and they're realizing we're doing way too much and we need to slow down a little bit.
yes,
It doesn't mean that you're going to stop doing anything and we're going to live like this, you know, in isolation.
yeah.
But I'm impressed in my neighborhood. Like I said, we're able to go out for walks, and I am astounded. Families I see out there now, and I love it. They're on the bicycles, they have the dogs.
Yeah.
It's adorable. And
Yes,
so to me, I feel like it's that part of that
yeah.
is what I've been pushing for with a lot of my families anyway. So now they're doing it. So, you
I
know,
love it.
that's kind of an upside. Yeah.
Absolutely. Rediscovering a simpler life.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so.
You know, like when we were kids, every weekend, like on a Friday, my parents would fetch us from school and we went to the beach. And we just spent time together. I mean, it may not have been absolutely together. We could be playing, but our parents were around. It was very simple. There was no television at that time, if you can imagine a world like that. No
Hmm.
mobile phones. And it was such a treat because you had the sea, you had the sand, and you had each other. And that was it.
Right.
And that is lost now. That is
I
lost.
agree.
And that's very
Yeah.
sad.
Right. Right. Well, I guess, you know, when you're talking about the takeaway or the hope that comes from this is that I think a lot of people are rethinking this. And to your point, I think a lot of people are going to take, you know, they're going to use less, you know, phone and that sort of thing. We can only hope that will happen.
Yeah.
A little less technology. We'll see what happens. I mean, we're doing that today, but it's the only way of connecting with you.
Yes. Yes. We do need some technology, but not all
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
time, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Heather, is there anything else that you'd like to tell the audience and people that you think would be helpful?
I'm trying to think what, because I mean, I think your guests have been so wonderful in what they've been touching on.
Yes.
Uh, you know what? Here's something that I feel that's really important is tolerance of differences. What's happening? Here's something that I've seen. I think people have a really different take on this whole COVID thing.
Yes.
And there are people, I've been using I always have little assessment tools I have to use anyway for my work, but it's the only way I can do my work, I think. And so I have come up with my own little assessment to try to figure out where everybody's on the spectrum on the COVID. And so one end of it would be a denier, thinking it's a hoax, and the other end would be the extreme, it's apocalyptic, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I ask my clients where they are on that spectrum. And they will say, I said, where are you today? Or like each time, because I work with them mostly on a weekly basis. So where are you today on the COVID spectrum? They know now when I ask them that question. And they'll say, oh, I feel like it's a hoax, or no, I'm really kind of more in the middle, or I'm over here. But my point is that I think everyone obviously is handling this differently. And what's going to be so important for us going forward, especially with what's being told, because it's all over the place. I'm just so confused sometimes, is being tolerant of the fact that, oh, my friend Sue over here is she's extreme. For her, it works for her, and she's maybe apocalyptic, and she will not leave the house for the next 6 months. And that's her prerogative. Absolutely. And I understand that obviously safety is a piece of this, and I'm not advocating that you go running out there and just do whatever, because it can affect everyone. But what I'm finding is, if I kind of guess where everybody's on that thing, then I'm able to go, oh, okay, that's where they're coming from. And of course, I'm seeing, obviously on Facebook and maybe Instagram a little bit, but Facebook, there is a struggle around that. I understand that some people and that's the survivor thing, by the way. If people get really black and white or stuck like this is the only way, then it's rigid, right? But it's unfortunate. So as much as I'm not advocating being a denier, I do know people that really truly believe that maybe this is not real, and that's just where they're at. That's their thing. And so as a clinician, when I meet with my clients, I have to tell them right away, because they've all wanted to know, what do I think? And I said, it really doesn't matter what I think. Because it's not my place to tell you what to think about the COVID. So that's really my advice to people, is try to figure out where everybody's at. And another great metaphor that I've heard is that, and I think you've probably heard it, and I probably will say it wrong, but basically that we're all in the same storm, but we're on different ships. So my ship is different. And so obviously that's, maybe some people have no jobs. Some people are just trying to put food on the table. Some people are sick. Some people are being affected. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are being affected by COVID directly. But what's interesting is we're all in this. When people say we're all in this together, I'm thinking, yeah, but we're in different places. So like that's the different ship idea.
It's
true.
Give
you an answer on that?
Yes, Heather, that's really lovely. Thank you very, very much. This was very enlightening, and I'm sure that we'll be able to use all the tools that you gave us. It's very kind of you. Thank you for taking time out early in the morning, I think, for you, and giving us like a wonderful, wonderful half an hour talk on what we can do to help our lives, to help our relationships, and go forward.